What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Team Member Perspective Podcast Show. I'm your host, Colter, and it's been a minute, but we're back. I'm excited to talk about balance. I want to talk about balance in regards to our role as team members in the office. Balance and intentional focus. In my experience over my 6 years being a team member, balancing different areas is crucial to finding consistency. Okay, and so I want to talk through the different areas that I've defined that have helped me and allowed me to find balance, which in turn has allowed me to find consistency at a high level. First, before we dive into the 4 areas of focus that I've defined, I want to talk about why it's important and the issue that we have with balance. If we think about the big picture here, right, as team members, and as an agency in general, right? We're in this to make money, right? And for many of us, we're also in this to make a difference, which I commend and I think is incredible. But in regards to making money, as team members, and for the most part, agencies are going to have team members that their primary role is to bring on new business, whereas some other roles might be to service the book, right? In a lot of agencies, they do a hybrid role. And you might be in a position where you're in a hybrid role, meaning you're doing sales and service, okay? And which I think is probably the case for most of us, right? So in a hybrid role or in the agency in general, balance is so important. We're trying to sell auto insurance, fire insurance, life insurance, health insurance products. If you offer a lot of different products in your agency, you need to be balanced. Right? Especially if you want to see growth, if you want to be consistent in these different lines of insurance, you need to be balanced. We get that. Now, if we were only selling, it would be a lot easier to be balanced in those areas. But because we are servicing a book as well on top of that, becomes more difficult, right? We're trying to write all of these lines of insurance and we're getting interrupted throughout the day. We're having customers walk into the office. They might be complaining about a bill that they got and they want someone to explain it to them. That could interrupt your day and throw you off, especially if you're not intentional. Maybe you have a customer that needs to make a payment, right? Or maybe you have some underwriting emails you need to do. Throwing in this service side of the business makes things difficult. And in my experience, if you are not intentional with what you're doing in the office, if you don't know what activities you need to spend your time on, and if you haven't defined those things, your day is going to get out of control and your day is going to control you, right? You're not going to be in control of your day. And if you want to be consistent, if you want to sell at a high level, you have to be balanced. You have to be consistent. These 4 areas are the areas that I've defined for myself that if I'm being balanced in each of these areas, my success is predictable, okay? Over my 6 years of experience, it took me probably until like year 4.5 to figure out what these different areas were or are, that if I'm balanced in them, I can predict my success and almost make it systematic for myself. Rather than just leaving it up to chance, I know if I'm balanced in each of these 4 areas, I'm going to be successful, I'm going to be consistent, and I'm going to be consistent at a high level. And so I've called them the 4 pillars of progress, because for me, this is how I find progress and consistency. The first pillar, and arguably one of the most important, is mindset and belief development. Mindset's huge. Belief is huge. And mindset, I think it's got this general feel and it's that word is thrown out a lot in any sort of, I think just in general, mindset. Right? You've got to get your mindset right. Mindset. That I think because it's so general, it's so vague, a lot of us, including myself at times, don't understand how to develop a winning mindset. What I've done to help myself comprehend and kind of think about mindset in a different way and actually use it to my advantage is, instead of using the word mindset, I like to think in frames. Almost like you have a lens, and what lens you're looking at your life through. Looking at life through different perspectives, through different frames, has allowed me to understand how to elevate my mindset and keep it consistent. Okay, and so mindset, For me, the reason why it's a lever mover is because if I'm not intentional with my mindset and I'm not intentionally placing things in my mind, it's going to be filled with things that I probably don't want. An idle mind for me is not good. If I'm not thinking about something, I'm going to be thinking about something else that I probably don't want to be thinking about. Now, how does this relate to being a team member in, the insurance space? Well, I'll tell you how. If I show up to work in a bad attitude and I have kind of a negative thought pattern going on, how likely am I to recognize opportunities for, say, writing life insurance or disability insurance? How likely am I to recognize those opportunities? Or how likely, if I've recognized it, how likely am I to actually pivot and bring up that product with my customer? Right? My experience, guys, if I'm not in the right mindset and I've got a negative thought pattern going on and I almost have a victim mentality, if I'm in that mindset, I can tell you, I am not recognizing opportunities like I would if I was in a good mindset, but let alone I'm not even taking advantage of the ones that I see come across because I'm not in a good mood, not in a good attitude. And so for me, mindset is a lever mover because there are certain things that I can focus on and do and make part of what I do to fill my mind full of positive things before I get into the office, right? That's a big one for me. And I've noticed that in the mornings, part of my morning routine is I need to fill my mind full of positive things. So I will listen to podcasts. I will read books. I will listen to books because the hope is that I can fill my mind full of positive things. And I know when I do that, if I am filling it full of positive things, I'm having positive thoughts. And when I'm thinking positively, I feel good, right? I'm feeling positive about the day, and I'm thinking about possibility and not problem. That's a big deal. Mindset is huge. On the other side of that, belief development is equally, if not more important than mindset, because and belief in two things. Number one, belief in yourself. You absolutely have to believe in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, then who is going to? You've got to develop self-belief, self-confidence, and you've got to continue to keep that top of mind. But aside from belief in yourself, you need to have a belief in your product. I can tell you right now, if you don't believe in your product and you're talking to other people and trying to get them to buy it, they're going to sense the doubt. They're going to sniff that out. On the flip side, if you develop and continue to develop a belief and deepen that belief in your product, that will also be sensed from your customer. Your customer will know and they will feel doubt or they will feel conviction. So my question to you, in thinking over this last week, over this last month, are you communicating doubt to your customers, or are you communicating conviction and belief to your customers? Big deal. So mindset and belief development is the first pillar of progress that has been an absolute game changer for me. Develop yourself, work on your mindset, and you will start to see results in your production. Okay, work on that belief, yourself and in the product. The second pillar of progress that has been a lever mover for me is simply activity. Having enough activity, enough inputs to get the desired output. The output that I want is I want to write more insurance. So if I want to write more of, say, health insurance, I got to talk about health insurance. I've got to have enough activity to do that. If you're a new team member and you're listening to this, or maybe you're a team member that doesn't have experience in selling life insurance, but you're good at other products, I want you to think of this, right? We're going to simplify this. If you want to get good at selling life insurance, but you haven't had a single life conversation yet, how good do you think you're going to be for that first life insurance conversation you have with a customer? If you're like me, probably thinking like, not very good at all. I don't even know how to sell this thing. I don't know how to talk to customers. I don't know how they respond to me when I talk about life insurance. I just don't have the experience, which you're probably not going to be confident in your ability to talk about life insurance because you don't have the experience. But imagine if you've had 100 conversations under your belt. How much better do you think you're going to be at a life insurance conversation after having 100 conversations with your customers? It'd be a lot better, right? How much more confident in yourself and in your abilities are you going to be after those 100 life conversations? A lot. I can tell you, I don't know the answer to that, but I can tell you, you're going to be a lot more confident in your abilities, in yourself, and in your product if you've talked about life insurance 100 times than if you have only talked about it once. Okay? So activity, that's the second pillar of progress. It is so important. The way that you just need to have activity. You need to bring up life insurance. If you want to sell life insurance more, you need to bring it up a lot and you need to be consistent with it. So for me, if you're not selling a product like you want to, I would suggest just putting a number out there. For me, it was 6 life conversations per day and stick to it. Hit that conversation goal every single day, right? That's the first step. If you want to start selling more life insurance, you've got to bring it up more, okay? And be consistent day in and day out with your life insurance conversations. And if you want to take it a step further, to know that you're actually doing what you need to do and having conversations with your customers to get better, track them. Get in the habit of tracking your pivots, because if you track it, you can measure it and you know how you can improve. Okay, but it's a great piece of accountability for yourself as well to track how many you're doing. And so activity is important. If you're not selling life insurance like you want to, I would suggest starting with 6 life insurance conversations per day and get good at hitting that, right? Give yourself some time and get some experience. Now go into this with an expectation that you've got to detach yourself from the results. That's when activity works in your favor. Think about what you can control with your customers in buying a life insurance policy. Can you control what the customer decides, if they're going to say yes to you or no? Can you? I don't think so, right? You can't control that. You could have the best life insurance conversation in the world, and you could get to the end of the conversation and your customer could say, you know what, Colter, I'm okay, thank you. Okay? Now, if you're attaching yourself and you're being emotional to the results, you're going to feel discouraged. No doubt. You've got to control what you can control, which if we think about selling life insurance, can't control their decision. What can we control? Well, it's bringing up the life insurance in the first place, right? Your pivots. And so put that at the front of your accountability system. And let's say that you do hit your 6 pivots, but you do not sell a policy. For this to work for you, be effective, you need to celebrate with yourself that you did what you could control. Okay? Because what that's going to do is that's going to, in your mind, allow you to be consistent. So when tomorrow rolls around and you get another 6 conversations, maybe you don't sell a policy, you celebrate with yourself. Okay? You're teaching yourself to continue to have the activity level that you need to get your desired result. So activity is important. The third pillar of progress that has been a game changer for me is training. We know we're having enough conversations. We can get better at our conversations. We can improve our closing ratio, and that's done through training. Okay, not just any sort of training, but intentional training. In my experience, the moments that I felt like, okay, I've got this figured out, I don't need to train anymore, are the moments that my progress starts to hinder and dwindle. I start to lose an edge. I kind of, it starts to happen, right? So consistent training, regardless if you're killing it or you're not, continue to train, continue to sharpen your axe. A few pieces of advice that I would give you that I wish I would have known sooner is, number 1, don't reinvent the wheel. If there are people in your industry, there are team members in your industry that are getting massive results, learn from them, right? You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Just learn what's already working and take it and make it your own. So it's something that you can be consistent with. Get better at, learn different sales processes that are working. Learn how to improve your delivery. Work on your tonality. All of these things are training. The better that you are at communicating with your customers, the reason why it would be important to get this policy in place, the better you are at that, the more you're going to sell. Okay, so train and continue to train. Find a way to make training part of what you're doing consistently. Every single week, arguably every single day, you should be working on training, working on your craft, and sharpening your axe. And then the fourth pillar of progress, which is the last, is follow-up. I realized, coming from a different sales position when I was doing door-to-door sales and getting into insurance, I realized how important follow-up actually is in this specific business, right? Think about this. If you have a conversation with a customer about, let's say, an umbrella policy, you have a really good conversation. How often are we hearing, hey, I want to talk with my husband about this and make sure that this is what we want to do? How often do we hear that? Well, in my experience, we're hearing that quite a bit. It's not foreign for customers to want to think about these different insurance policies rather than just buying them right then and there. And so even with, life insurance, think about that. People want to talk to their significant other about that. Okay. And so follow-up is important, and not just follow-up, but effective follow-up. Learning how to follow up and follow up effectively will allow you to close policies that could easily be closed, right? Just by following up and bringing it top of mind to the customer. I mean, think about this. What did you do last Tuesday? You remember? I know I don't. I have to think really hard about what I did yesterday. So that principle alone just goes to show that as humans, as society, we are busy. Your customers are not thinking about the umbrella conversation you had with them last Tuesday. They're not. So, think about your relationship towards follow-up. I know a lot of people, a lot of team members think, I just don't want to bug them. I don't want to be like that. But guys, here's the thing. You're not going to bug them, especially if you set it up properly. Communicate with them when you're going to follow up with them next. But if you're not following up, or you're not following up effectively, you're leaving a lot of policies on the table, a lot of money on the table that you could easily get by just simply learning how to follow up effectively. So guys, those are the 4 pillars of progress. They're the 4 areas that I really focus on every single day, every single week, every single month. I use this as a self-accountability exercise to make sure that I'm balanced in each of these areas. Because I'll tell you, when one of them falters, so does my production. Okay, so what I like to do as often as I can, which is usually monthly, preferably I'd like to do this weekly, is I will look at these 4 pillars of progress: mindset and belief development, activity, training, and follow-up. And I will go through each of these pillars and I will give myself a score on a scale of 1 to 10. And I will think back over the previous month, over the previous week, and give myself a grade, right? Think back through that week and through my conversations with my customers, through my mindset, and just, be aware of what's working and what's not, and where I might need to focus to be more balanced. Because I'll tell you, when you're more balanced in each of these areas, a lot changes for you, right? In a very positive way. You're going to write more policies, which means you're going to make more money, which means you're going to have a bigger impact on those around you. And I can tell you from a mental, side of things, you're going to feel very fulfilled, right? You're going to feel like you're contributing to something bigger than yourself, okay? There are so many benefits to learning how to sell, okay? This simple idea of the 4 pillars of progress is how I've simplified it for myself to be more effective and to continue to get better, so I can continue to make more money, have a bigger impact, and be fulfilled with what I'm doing. I appreciate you guys, and we will catch you next week.